Okay, so we're going to talk about the example that I covered in class with the golf clubs. On the screen here I have the data from the problem already here. Alright, we want to be able to calculate the mean and the standard deviation for both of these columns of data. So we come up to the top here and click on formulas, and then over on the left open the formula sheet, go down to statistical, and the first thing we want to do is calculate the average. The function comes up in the block here, and all I have to do now is highlight the column that I want the average for and hit the enter key, and there is the average for the first column. I can do the same thing with the standard deviation, which of course is further down on the menu here, and we want the standard deviation for the sample, so that's standard deviation S, and again I highlight the column of data that I want the standard deviation for and hit enter, and there is my standard deviation. Now I want this also for the second column, so I can highlight both of those, put the cursor so it changes, drag that over, and now I have the standard deviation for both, mean and standard deviation for both columns. I also want the correlation coefficient, and that's our R value. And there is a function in here for that as well. Again, statistical, correl, and I have to highlight each column individually. So I highlight the first column, hit comma, I highlight the second column, and then hit enter, and there is my correlation coefficient identical to what I calculated in class. Now the next thing that I would like to look at is a chart that represents the scatter plot. Right, so we have a bunch of charts that I can do right here. I highlight the data that I want represented in the chart, and then I have to choose the type of chart that I want to do, and I want to do a scatter plot. So there is my scatter plot. Now I'd like to add a few things to this scatter plot. I would like to add a trend line. Right, so right here, trend line. I want a linear trend line since we're doing linear correlation. There is my trend line. Now it would be nice also if I had the equation for the least squares regression line. So again, I open up trend line, come down here to trend line options, and then notice right down here display equation on chart. So I click that, click OK, and here is my least squares regression trend line on my chart. I can now use that line to make predictions. Now I'd like to clean this up a little bit. I'm going to get rid of the legend because we don't really need it. And I'd like to add some titles for my axes. So my horizontal axis, okay, I'm going to throw a title in there, and that is the club head speed. Alright, so there's my club head speed. And the vertical axis, now I have some choices for the vertical axis. I'm going to choose to do a rotated title. So see how it comes out there. Alright, now again I'm going to highlight that, and this is the distance traveled. So distance traveled. Okay. And there is a nice, neat little presentation of my least squares analysis along with a chart and some little extra data.